Joining me now is Hamid Yunis, who is the UK Managing Partner at McDermott, Will and Emery. Welcome.
Thank you,
Now,
sir.
in your role, you do a great deal with the healthcare sector internationally. It seems that's the growth area. There's a lot more happening in all sorts of aspects of healthcare. What are the drivers there?
I think there's various different reasons, Sue, as to why a company or a health system might want to go international. It's looking for new markets, new opportunities. I think there's new innovation in different countries around the world. And also, it's very much a two-way process. It can be seen as a partnership where a company or a system might go international, but actually it might learn things or it might have resource that it can bring back to its home market as well. So many different reasons. I think it depends on whether it's a profit-based expansion in a sense or a not-for-profit. And we've seen lots of different reasons, I think. The other point is that no one size fits all. So a reason why somebody might want to go international, so to speak, or expand might not be the same reason for another entity.
And what about adaptability then? If you've got a brand that works really well in one healthcare market, you think, great, we can take this somewhere else. It might not fit. What sort of amendments, tweaks need to be made?
Well, that's a great point because, even in European terms, let alone if you're going much wider, the sort of reimbursement systems can be very different. So, a UK reimbursement system is very different from a French reimbursement system, and therefore could be very different from a Middle Eastern reimbursement system. I think there's all those non-specific healthcare reasons as well as to of things that you've got to adapt to and got to realise the governance issues within a certain jurisdiction, the taxation issues within a jurisdiction. Some jurisdictions have difficulty in terms of if you're investing money, how do you extract that money in a tax efficient and economically efficient manner? So all of those factors come into it. I think those are the challenges really if you're going international. And I've seen situations where people have gone international without thinking about that. They think, oh great, we've got a great opportunity in this country, let's go for it. But they haven't really structured it well, they haven't got the governance right, they haven't got their perhaps local partner is not the right partner. And ultimately they lose a lot of money. And if it can be structured well, I think potentially a great winner, but things that companies and entities need to think about before they do go international.
And you touched earlier on almost two-way traffic, that actually once you've gone international, you learn things. You think, oh, that system's got something we could perhaps take on board.
Yeah.
How much of that two-way process is there?
I think there's more and more. If I was just looking at my sort of timeline of being involved in this, and probably longer than, I'd like to think it was a more recent phenomenon, but it's been going on a long time. There have been some terrible mistakes made where, let's say a UK or an American system was going international. Its inclination would be to stamp its model on a local jurisdiction and acquire or set up and invest a lot of funds to do so. In fact, I've seen examples of where UK, in this case American systems, have gone international and just branded without any quality assurance. So those are the ways not to do it right. But that partnership aspect that we were talking about, if you can choose the right partner, there are an exchange of ideas, an exchange of know-how that can happen. There are economies of scale. Economies of scale might help. A resource in a local jurisdiction, although this shouldn't necessarily be the driver, but the resource might be a cheaper resource. So for instance, on some volume-based elements of healthcare, that might be done better in a jurisdiction that is cheaper and the resource is available. So there's lots of ways in which people can exchange ideas. Also, on very senior resource, you can have medical and clinical assistance from those other jurisdictions which perhaps you don't have in your own jurisdiction. And given the advent of remote and digital technology, we're seeing more of that now as well.
And you talk about partnerships. Perhaps is that then the way to avoid the worst aspects of globalization, of, as you say, exporting a brand and saying this is how it is, actually to work in a partnership, to really be more collaborative? Is that the answer?
Oh, it's got to be. It's got to be. I mean, I have advised on really terrible structures where, let's say, a global institution has gone to another country and said, look, use our name and just give us a royalty fee, right? And that institution was then blackballed from certain jurisdictions because of its lack of underlying sort of governance in a sense. That doesn't happen anymore. I think people have learned about that. Those institutions that and companies that go global have learned from those models. So you still have acquisition, you still have build-up of chain kind of models, or fertility, pharmaceutical, pharmacy, ophthalmology, and so on, that are building chains where the economies of scale can be really, really helpful. But you also have other kind of collaborations where it's an acquisition, a joint venture, a partnership. Joint venture is a partnership, for want of a better expression, where both parties have skin in the game, so to speak, or both parties have something to add. I mean, we've advised on, transactions in Europe, of course, but also around the world, Middle East, Far East, as you might call it, where, again, no one size fits all, but, you're seeing the same kinds of challenges. And if it's structured well, you can you can generally structure something that works well. Of course, I wouldn't underestimate people issues as well, because cultural issues, religious issues, all come into play when those partnerships are created. And having a local partner that is properly organized and understands that can help an international player, get success in a particular jurisdiction.
Sensitivity.
Absolutely, absolutely right.
I mean, Yunis, thank you so much for your insights on how to go international and get it right.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.